You cannot honestly think that Vladimir Putin can drop a nuclear weapon on the people of Ukraine and there would be no response from America or the West.
I said there wouldn't be a nuclear response. There may be a response, but there won't be a nuclear response, because you want to remember that if we hit Russia with American nuclear weapons or Western nuclear weapons, the end result is the Russians will retaliate against us. And we do not want to be hit with nuclear weapons. This is why we don't want Ukraine to have nuclear weapons. It's why we didn't want West Germany or South Korea or Japan to have nuclear weapons during the Cold War.
East Germany, you mean?
No, West Germany. We didn't want West Germany to have nuclear weapons because our great fear was that if the Soviets overran West Germany, the West Germans would use nuclear weapons. They would hit the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union would retaliate against the United States. We don't want to become involved in a nuclear war.
But then it seems
So we're not going to fight.
Right, I understand that, but if a nuclear power like Russia can simply use its nuclear weapons with impunity and other nuclear powers do not respond, then the nuclear deterrent collapses, doesn't it? Because they've just ignored it.
No, it doesn't. It has no effect on our nuclear deterrent. Our nuclear deterrent remains intact, and the fact is the Soviet Union during the Cold War and Russia today will not attack the United States for fear that we would use our nuclear deterrent against the Soviet Union in the Cold War and Russia today. But the point is that if the Russians were to use nuclear weapons inside of Ukraine today, we would not respond with a nuclear attack on Russia, because that would precipitate a general thermonuclear war. And the last thing we want is a general thermonuclear war. This is not to say we would be happy about the fact that Ukraine was hit with nuclear weapons, because we certainly would not be, and we certainly would respond in some way. But we would not respond with a nuclear strike on Russia.
How would we respond that would have any effect?
I'm not sure. It's very hard to say. I mean, even if we used simply conventional weapons, we got involved in the war with Russia, we would then have a great power war between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, which included the United States. And once you have a great power war involving Russia versus the United States, the danger of nuclear escalation presents itself. And this, of course, is why President Biden has wisely said that under no circumstances will American military forces be introduced into the Ukraine war, because he understands that once you do that, you're out on the slippery slope. You're out on the slippery slope to nuclear escalation. And the last thing we want, as I've emphasized to you, is a nuclear war between Russia and the United States.
No, I get that, but if Russia was to use one, that is right there, the nuclear escalation that you are so keen for everyone to avoid. It's a deliberate act of nuclear provocation. And I just cannot imagine that in that eventuality, with hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians being slaughtered with a nuclear weapon by Russia, I just cannot imagine that there would be no similar response from the West. They would have to.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for 1 second.
Well, then what you're really doing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but aren't you painting a picture then of Russia being effectively infallible here? They can do what the hell they like.
My point to you is that if the Russians are losing in Ukraine, and Ukraine and the West are winning, the Russians, I believe, will initiate nuclear use in Ukraine. And they will do that not only because they think they are facing an existential threat, but also because they will not fear nuclear retaliation from the West.